The USA once again showed why it is not worth messing with it. Anyone who tries will quickly feel that tomorrow is not worth seeing, as the USA will eliminate everything they call home. Enjoy 8 such stories. In 2018, the Russian Wagner Group had a bright idea to attack US base in Syria. The USA swiftly introduced them to the military meaning of the term overkill. At 10 p.m., Russian armored column attacked and shelled the US base. Mortar, artillery, and tanks relentlessly pounded the tiny outpost. US troops rushed to their defensive positions and returned fire with small arms. Immediately after the attack, Secretary of Defense called the Russian counterpart and told him to stop the raid. Russian High Command responded with, "We don't have Russians in the area." USA said, "Understood," and an order was issued for the attacking force to be annihilated by any means necessary. Moments later, F-22, Apache helicopters, B-52 bombers, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and all of Marine artillery in range engaged in a brutal 12 hours long campaign of destruction. After all was done, not a single living organism survived in that 1 square mile. Defending US soldier described the landscape as moon-like. In the end, the USA contacted Russia again and confirmed that there are no troops in the area. Russians did not respond. How are US soldiers different from European soldiers? In Afghanistan, there was a common French saying, "You better pray that you have an American in your unit." A French soldier wrote about his extraordinary experience with American soldiers in Afghanistan. If a unit was in trouble, you prayed that an American unit took up the radio call for help. When American forces picked up the call, their reply was, "Sit tight, we are coming to get you." There wasn't any haggling or logistic issues. The Americans were fully committed to your rescue. They came regardless of what the situation was. In fact, they wouldn't ask about specifics until they got close to your position, and often knew the threats in the area before asking what problems you were having. He also described an amazing fact. In all other forces, if an officer was killed, you're taught to dig in and take a defensive position. Not the Americans. If an American officer is taken out of commission, they go on the attack. American officers restrain the troops under their command, not for their protection, but for the enemy's. If you kill or injure an American, they are coming for you, and very little will save you. How is it to fight against the US Marines? Let's ask the enemy. The British were chickens, but these men, the American Marines, they fight like animals, like they are not even human. Intercepted radio from Afghan militants after battle with Marines in Karamanda, or panic sweeps my men when they face Marines after the clash in Mogadishu, Somalia. Mogadishu engagement was especially brutal. Marine amphibious unit was covering the withdrawal of US forces from Mogadishu. After successful withdrawal, the last 1,500 Marines were waiting on a beach for a sea evac with their backs to the water. Think 1,500 Marines, every gun ready and pointed towards the city. Everything from the riflemen with an M4 to amphibious assault vehicles, machine guns, and rocket launchers. Everything but tanks. Some idiots in the city started taking pot shots at them with AKs. The Marine commander said, "Return fire and suppress the enemy." After 20 minutes of every Marine shooting at whatever real or imagined targets there were, they stopped. Marines devastated that side of the city. There was no movement there anymore. Nobody took any more pot shots at them. Do not mess with US Marines. The USA once again demonstrated why it is not worth targeting or kidnapping US citizens. This was the final lesson learned by these kidnappers. In late 2020, 6 gunmen armed with AK-47s raided Philip Walton's farm in West Africa and demanded money. Philip had only $35, so the attackers tied up him, his wife, child, and brother. They had other plans for Philip. It looked like he might be auctioned in Africa, in which case he would be as good as dead. The Pentagon deployed surveillance drones. Then they deployed SEAL Team 6 because of their experience in West Africa. An aircraft carrier was moved closer with jets ready to provide air cover. Back at the US drone base in Niger, a Delta Force team was on standby with 4 Black Hawks and 2 gunships. Team 6 flew from Germany. They parachuted down and landed 3 miles from the kidnappers. 30 men of SEAL hiked 2.5 miles, surrounded and surprised the kidnappers. A short gunfight started. And by gunfight, I mean kidnappers got a hefty dose of lead, and 6 of them were neutralized. The hostage was secured, unharmed. This is why it's not worth targeting US citizens. Iraqi military made a critically bad move against the USA. In response, they made the US Air Force run out of bombs. The highway where the Iraqi military was caught was later named the Highway of Death. When it was clear to the Iraqi that they lost the Gulf War, over 11,000 Iraqi soldiers attempted to run away from Kuwait. They chose the infamous now Highway 80, as it was the only road that was good and big enough for all the military vehicles. Unfortunately for them, US forces were there and ready. The USA bombed and destroyed the first and last vehicles in the convoy to trap the Iraqi military. Over 3,000 vehicles were stuck between burning armor. US forces then rained down hell on their enemies. For 11 hours, they bombed everything below. Later, US pilot described it as shooting fish in a barrel. The destruction was so complete that it shocked the world. Even one of the US technician complained, "It was the worst shift of my life. I had to load 100 bombs and jets kept coming back for more." Since then, there has not been a single instance of Iraq challenging the USA, neither militarily nor politically. Iran thought that striking US troops was a good idea, but it was a terrible miscalculation. Let me explain. Most recently, Iran, through its proxies, launched a drone attack on US base in Jordan that ended 3 lives. The militants were then met with true hellfire. USA launched the attack directly after the president greeted the bodies of the soldiers in DC. The official statement was, "Our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing." That sentence just shows complete domination. We know where you are, we can hit you at any time, and you can't do shit to stop it. Dozens of B-1 bombers flew all the way from the US in a non-stop show of force. 85 confirmed targets were hit, and the US only used 125 precision munitions. Number of casualties on the militant side is unknown, but honestly no one cares anyway. US let the Iranian side know 3 days in advance about the strikes. They then tracked the militant movements and also hit the newly discovered bases. The lesson is simple: actions meet consequences, and do not mess with US soldiers. The Syrians found out what happens when you ignore the USA repeatedly. They witnessed the overwhelming strength of the United States military in response. In 2017, the Syrian government had launched a strike on their own town with Russian help. Sadly, 80 lives were lost. Russia, as usual, denied everything and blamed the West. The USA quickly gathered enough evidence and called Russia incompetent. In response, the Russians destroyed the building where the people were treated in an attempt to destroy the evidence. The USA had had enough. The US Navy launched 59 guided rockets from the Mediterranean Sea, targeting the airbase in western Syria, from which the attack had originated. The strike, which was carried out with surgical precision, destroyed aircraft, hardened hangars, and air defense systems at the base. It is believed that over 20 Russian operatives went missing after the attack, along with many more government forces. The message from the United States was clear: do not test us. The strike stopped completely. Now, when the USA speaks, the room falls quiet and everyone is listening. No one dares to ignore the USA. Retreat? Hell, we just got here. Marine Captain Lloyd Williams said that in response to a French officer who suggested that he and his 3,000 Marines turn around and run as 20,000 Germans were advancing through Belleau woods. Rather than flee from the Germans, the Marines attacked while the French retreated. They even moved closer to the Germans to take a better position. The Germans had never seen people who fought like the Marines. With no ammo left, the forces resorted to using anything they could find as weapons: rifles, helmets, knives, bayonets, and rocks. Survivors on both sides described the battle as a brutal and unimaginable display of carnage. During the fight, German field commanders sent messages to headquarters: "We are fighting the US Marines. We are winning the fight, but the Marines do not understand that they have lost. They keep fighting even though we have won. When we shoot them, they continue to attack. Please advise." But the reality was different. With sheer psychotic determination, Marines made the Germans run away. The German army dubbed the Marines hellhounds, devil dogs. Marines do not know what surrender is.